Someone's messing with rappers in the background.
Super fast tortoise in the show, drinking coffee, wishing you all well, because life is swell. Super fast tortoise. Start the morning with coffee in your cup. Time to hang out with friends and chat it up. Bring a smile and good luck. Hit that like button and let's chat it up. Good times start with us, you and me.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, welcome to the morning coffee show. Let's talk from in the shell and share good vibes and good times. Friends and trends have been the senses. Let's get up, it's senseless. Welcome to the morning coffee show, where we bring good vibes and good times. Welcome to the morning coffee show with super fast Tortoise. Welcome to the morning coffee show, where we have the flow.
Hey, everybody! I want to know if you're ready for the show. That's right. That's right. Today we got a very hot topic to talk about. Like, very hot topic. I'm excited for it. This is going to be part one because my brain's already working on a part two.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I got to get Tabal interested in this topic. I got to keep him tuned in. He's my guinea pig. How many times can I get Tabal to tune in? Because if it works on him, then it works on other people, right?
Sure. Well, that's not entirely true. This has made me realize a few very specific things we'll talk about later once we get into it. But I'm not like everybody else, or I don't necessarily have the same goals because, again, I am Tybalt's apprentice. Mm-hmm. I'm all about causing that chaos. So
chaos. That's right. That's right. And like what everybody else didn't know is I was switching my hat between the intros. So I was wearing this cool beanie I got for Christmas. Yeah. I figured I'd switch things up, look like that old homeless dude you see on the street. You just can't grow out of the 80s.
My hairstyle is living proof of this.
Whoa, it is a special edition of the show, but let's introduce everybody here. We got Rayman. Rayman, tell us who you are, where you're streaming from.
I am the one Rayman. I'm coming to you live from Mr. B's Game Lounge in beautiful Pennington Gap, Virginia. We got so much stuff going on. We got Friday Night Magic tonight. We're going to get hopefully back up with our streams next week. We had such a good response to our Commander game last week. This week I had some personal stuff come up, so I wasn't able to get that produced. But the players are ready. Everybody's decks are now legal. We will take the silver lining of saying that if we had played the game that we were going to play on Tuesday night, you guys would have seen a bracket 3 deck that just had entirely too many game changers in it. So hopefully that's all squared away, and we'll be back up and running this coming week. And I'm glad to be back. It's my first show of the New Year's, and I'm ready for this. I foresee some Stephen A. Smith level of hot takes in this episode.
That's right. Let's go. I don't know who Stephen H. Whoever it is. I don't know who he is.
I know who he is.
Is he a wrestler?
No, he's a sports talk guy.
Sports commentator, narrator, all types of things from ESPN.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know sports that well. The only thing I do is I follow the Steelers on Facebook and see how their game's going to see if they're going to the playoffs or not. Which, according to what I read,
will be.
What?
If they beat the Ravens this weekend, they're in the playoffs. If not, they go home.
Mm-hmm. I know the last game they lost to the Browns, and that was hilarious because who loses to the Browns? Rhino Blitz like I do.
I'm a Jets fan, so I got no room to talk. I can't be smack talking the Browns as a Jets.
All right, Hillbilly, tell us about yourself and about your channel.
I'm a Hillbilly and stream arena mostly. 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. Every day, 7 days a week. And play Commander on Tuesday nights.
Nice.
Your battles on Wednesday afternoons at 2 o'clock.
Sounds good. All right. Michael Mad Saxon Jones to ball, whatever you want to be called. What about you?
I am Michael Mad Saxon Jones because I will cut my own arm off to beat you to death with it if necessary. So, otherwise known as Tibble's Apprentice. You can find everything Tibble's Apprentice at darkritual.site. I sell magic. I play magic. I am magic.
Nice. That's right. Ramblets, how about you?
Hey guys, what's up, party people? Coming to you from Baltimore, Maryland. That's why I said we'd lose to the Browns. But yeah, I launched my channel in January 16th, along with the pre-release of Lorwyn Eclipse. You can find me at YouTube, The Real Rhino Blitz, or as well as at Twitch, The Real Rhino Blitz.
Oh, yeah. And I believe
We will be doing a weekly commander game, much like Hillbilly and Tortoise themselves. The day for that will probably be closer to like Saturdays, so it's a day that most people aren't doing it on. And then I'll be doing arena with subscribers, matches and stuff like that, interaction with subscribers, and then it's a lot of video game content and magic content.
nice. Well, if I was just checking, I do need to update your link in the description, but everybody's link is in the description for those who want to check them out. Rhino Blitz is still tapped out for 2. So I need to switch that over. Change it to the Real Rhino Blitz. I don't know why I haven't changed it yet, but hey.
It's okay. But yeah,
All
the
right.
first episode will be a box opening of Lorwyn, so that should be fun.
It's gonna be awesome. Well, thank you guys for being here for today's topic. I appreciate it. Yeah. Lone Wolf had to step away from the normal show, so he had to do some important responsibilities. So let's hope those go well for him. Yay! Yay!
Patrick.
All right. Well, yeah. Since we got that out of the way, let's get to the first segment of the day that we love.
Card of the day. Breaker.
Card of the day is brought to us by TCG Dude in Discord. If you're not a part of Discord, be a part of Discord. You can participate in the show by posting in cards of the day, questions of the day, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so TCG Dude decided to share Nikia of the Old Ways with us as the card of the day. Got 3 generic and red and green, so 5/5. Says you can't cast a non-creature spells. Oof. That's heavy.
Wow.
Restriction right there.
Right? But it has a caveat that whenever you tap a land for mana, you add 1 mana of any type that land can produce. So it makes your lands tap for double mana.
Interesting.
I mean, it's interesting to have a worse Mirari's Wake in the command zone, I think.
Mm-hmm.
This is a spell that you put in your command zone and you go, okay, this is going to sit here and not do anything until I'm ready to win the game. And then you cast it and then you tap for a bunch of mana and you hope that you can win the game.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
You're cooked. The interaction that you're not going to be able to stop because you can't cast non-creature spells.
Because you can't cast non-creature spells.
Right.
It's a heck of a caveat.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, like, how do I shut that off? Can I stuff it in the Conjurer's Closet? Can I float all the mana into my mana pool, then stick it in the Conjurer's Closet, cast the spell that I want, and then pull it back out? Like, there's got to be something other than Conjurer's Closet that's maybe not the best.
The only way you do is you got to airbend that thing, or you got to,
There you go. That's it.
or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Or
Exile it somehow with a creature exile.
Or you can just put in a deck full of creatures. Or you
Yep.
Nah, you don't want to do that. That's boring.
That's boring.
Is
Like-
airbending? I've actually not done much with airbending. Is airbending that it leaves the battlefield and then it comes back into play at another point?
It's kind of like exile. You get to, like, let's say I airbended this card right here. It costs 5 mana. All right. If I airbend this, it'll go bounce back up it'll go into exile. Then I'll be able to play this for 2 mana.
Oh, see, okay. So the downside of airbending your commander is that if somebody stifles the re-entry, your commander is just gone for the rest of the game. So, like, tuck that away in your brain somewhere. Because if you're playing against me specifically, I run Stifle in almost every deck I can that's blue because, boy, that card is so good. Or it's not just a Stifle. There's anything that does the counter target activated or triggered ability.
Yep.
Because the Airbend would be a activated ability that you're activating on a delayed trigger.
It's not an activated ability. It's a casting ability.
Is it an alternate? Are you recasting it?
Yes, you're recasting it for 2.
Yeah.
So it's more like plotting. Okay.
Yeah, it's more like
It's kind of like plotting.
Interesting.
Kind of like more
old.
And here's the cool thing, right? If you even know how like Hillbilly explained how when you airbend it, you could still recast that card that I airbended for 2. You could. However, if I did the infinite airbending combo, then it wouldn't matter. Which I just learned about this morning.
Well, the irony in airbending is that you have to have white.
You do have to have white.
If this is your commander, I'm pretty sure that is not enough.
No, I meant as a defense against that thing.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of things you can do with this. It does make you wonder what's it worth, for you. I mean, the bonus nowadays is a lot of creatures that you play have enough abilities to kind of negate the need for non-creature spells. So there's a lot of non-creature spells out there worth playing. Because if you're playing Nakia the old ways, you're probably running a guttural response in your deck. That's a non-creature spell, counter spell for blue and red.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Well, that's all right. That's enough to talk about the card of the day. With that, we need to get to the picture of the day, which is when you and your buds go in on a deck building spree and you are trying to be in the same zone. There's so many times where we've been around playing, not playing Commander, but trying to build a deck with friends, like group deck, and everybody has their ideas. And like someone will go on an idea and like, I got this idea for the deck. You put in this card and this card. You'll get this combo off, and that means you can synergize like this. And the other player's like, well, that's not the synergy I'm looking for. I'm looking for this. But you're thinking about the colors and what the colors do, and someone's thinking about the creature type and what the creature type does. You're like, I want to do this. It's funny when you get multiple people trying to build a deck.
Well, I've been trying to get that done on Arena myself.
Mm-hmm.
With my viewers, I'm trying to invite them to join in on the stream to build decks with me. But I ain't been able to hardly get anybody to join.
Yeah, I think part of it is no one likes to be criticized for their choices. They're afraid people in the comments or something will be like, that's a bad card or something like that, and they'd feel bad. So it's really tough to get around those insecurities that some people have on being live.
Hey, listen, the next time someone tells you that a card is bad, you put it in your deck, and then you go win the game with it.
That's right.
That's right. That's how we do.
That's exactly what I did.
Lean into it.
Show here. I was just like, oh, you're going to tell me that Sensei's Divining Top is bad in 2025?
I can't find it anywhere. I can't find it anywhere.
Right. You're just going to go win a game with it. Let's find out how bad that card really is.
I'm trying to buy that card.
I used to say that about Birds of Paradise and Commander. I'm like, Birds of Paradise is a bad card.
Oh, Birds is great.
And I got my butt beat in a Voltron deck with Birds of Paradise.
Oh. I actually, me and my friends, we have a day every so often that we put together as a deck building day.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So, yeah, we'll get like a couple pizzas and just bring everything over and take up the whole kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Sounds fun. All right, now we need to get to the question of the day, which is brought to us by TC Dude, which is amazing. He's going to ask a question that I think the Bulb's going to go house on.
Hey, y'all. TCG Dude here. My question of the day is, are you going to build a new deck for 2026 or update an existing deck?
Mm-hmm.
Bears poop in the woods.
I'm already 2 ahead.
Nice.
I made edits to mine at 12:05 on New Year's Day, sitting about 10 feet from where I'm sitting right now. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I plan on building the Turtles deck when it comes out, or playing with it. I want to play with it, get to know it, play with the pre-con for a bit.
Which one did you want to make?
I want to make the 5-color one, of course. And I want to play it. I want to see how it plays, get used to it, then upgrade it eventually. So that's my plan. So I guess if buying a deck or getting a deck is part of that question, yeah, I plan on getting a deck.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Right now, I don't have the funds to buy a new deck or upgrade a deck. Even though I do have a card I'm trying to think about putting a deck, which is this the Unagi of Kyoshi Island. It says whenever it draws your second card per turn, you draw 2 cards.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Consecrated Sphinx, but slightly
This guy.
Yeah.
There you go.
That guy.
Not foil. Mine's not foil. I'll give you my address later on so you can mail it to me.
You can have it. You can have it. You can have it.
All right. What about you, Tabal? What's your plan?
I was waiting to hear what Hillbilly had to say, but
Go ahead.
okay. I absolutely am going to start leaning into building some more decks. So yes, that is a goal. One of my first goals here of the new year is to both build and actually take apart some of my decks. I've been told numerous times that I don't need 35 decks.
People are wrong. They are wrong. Who told you that? Those people
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. But I do believe that some things maybe need to be taken apart that would just have no chance of winning, or a minimal chance of winning, like the Shatter Gang brothers. I'm not sure that's a viable deck strategy these days with so many things being built into recursion and that type of stuff on different cards. That would be a tough deck. However, I may, like Rayman said earlier, I may take it the other way and just try to power out something absolutely awesome with them. So I don't know. We'll see. But yes, absolutely goal for this year is to build more decks and to build them myself and not have my wife build them.
All right. Now, Hillbilly.
Well, I plan on doing a little bit of both. I plan on buying a couple of decks in 2020 this year, and also upgrading some decks also.
Nice. Sounds good. Well, you're upgrading decks right now. You're slowly upgrading the Mothman.
Yep.
In fact, there's a card I got 2 cards right here. Right here. I think you could use in your deck if you don't have them. I don't know when I'll be able to send them to you, but one's called Paranoid Delusions, which is good if your commander's out. It costs a blue and a black. It says target player puts the top 3 cards of their library into their graveyard and has Cipher, so you can attach it to your creature. So when it does combat damage, it triggers it to cast it.
Oh, but now remember, that isn't mill. That isn't mill. So if you have something that triggers off a mill, putting the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard is not mill. It's not
right.
Mill.
Well, I get that, but having a deck that wants to mill people just in general,
right?
It's pretty solid. Then some little control if you don't have it is Mystic Snake. It costs a generic, a green and 2 blue, and it counters target spell on entry.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I've had those set aside for a bit. I just haven't been able to mail them off. Ruiz, 8 viewers and 1 like from me. Get in the chat lacking this morning. That's right. Ooh. Boo boo. At 16 now. Get them up. Sweet. You guys rock. All right. Let's get into the topic. Ooh, the topic of the day is game theory deck building. All right. So first of all, I got to pop up this little graphic because this is my little bipolar equation, because I was on my medications for a bit and I went bipolar. I'm trying to make an equation. So what is this? Well, it's a lot, to tell you the truth. It's a mathematic problem you got to figure out. You got card effect over game action, right? So when you're doing deck building, you're looking at the card effects, what the card does, and you're doing over game action. What's preferred game action when you plan on using it? Your turn, your opponent's turn, your second main phase, or your first main phase. It's the kind of things you look at. Then you take those two. You kind of calculate those two together to multiply them to the resource management based on the mana you have available, what it takes, times the over the time restrictions. And you look at the time restrictions and you're like, how good is this? Like sometimes you read a card and you're like, this card would just be better if it was instant. And some cards you read, you're like, this card's pretty solid if it's instant or sorcery. So you kind of put those together. But you divide those over player response to resolution. You got to player responses. You kind of got to gather the response players are going to have. Like, are they going to be shocked and awed? Are you going to be enemy number one? If this resolves, that's kind of the thing here. Is if it resolves, what's the effect that's going to happen? Which you take all that and you equal that into your consequence. And consequence is a word I purposely put in here. Is what you're looking for. It's because consequence is all your card effects, game actions, time restrictions, resource management, and your player responses on resolution. And you're taking that into effect in your deck building because you want to know how the general response is going to be, so you know how to react in deck build and put in your deck. And so when you get this consequential result, you want to look at your consequence effect and put it and what's the word? You want to add that up basically with your synergy and self benefits here. Synergy times self benefits. Self benefits is how much the card benefits you, and synergies, does it fit your deck synergy or your theme synergy well, and does it affect you? Sound like I just made a lot of bullshit, but I hope that made sense.
All I have to say is I'm glad I do not build decks this way, because I would build maybe one every 7 years. Holy God, that's a lot of stuff to take into account.
Well,
Yep.
the thing is, I took the basics of deck building and I'm like, let's break this down, because I have a book on game theory, and trust me, a lot of it gets confusing. And I'm like, what's the best way you can talk about installing cards in your deck? And I'm like, well, here's the basic thing. When you look at a card, you look at what it does. You look at its mana cost. You look at the game action process. You look at the time restrictions of it, like if it's sorcery or not. Then you try to judge that card on your player's response when everybody else looks at you playing the cards, because some cards you play are going to make you enemy number one.
Yep.
And if this card resolves, you're gonna look at how people are gonna look at you, because like if you play a large big old creature that's a one game swing game ender, people are gonna look at you and like, oh, we know you have that in your deck, and the consequences, people are gonna target you. And so you take that and you're like, well, that kind of card, and you're like, well, how much does it synergize with my deck, and what are the benefits I get from the deck? And you're like, let's put it in there. See, that made more sense.
A lot of these variables will shift, right? Because like if you're playing a card, for example, that you're like, hey, this card would be really, really good if it was an instant, right? But there are a lot of cards now, especially in blue and green and sometimes red, where you're like, hey, the timing restriction doesn't matter anymore. I can completely get around that.
Right. And that's going to be on another episode where we talk about game modifiers.
Yeah, game modifiers. Yeah.
Because I was thinking about that today before the video, because like there's some things like time restrictions. Vidalcan Ori makes things instant, so the time restrictions are now negated.
Doesn't matter.
Right. And so I was thinking about that too. And Mr. Tierney says that's why they came up with game restrictions. But anyways, I got to read some stuff really quick. I'm going to try to do a fast read. Game theory and deck building is a key thought process to have when deck building. As we deck build and Magic the Gathering, we want the most efficient and synergistic cards to offer and power up the build of powerful actions. We look at interactions and we think of the simple things. We think removal, card draw, card advantage, resource building, and management. We put game resets like board wipes in the deck, and we also think of protection strategies like ways to protect your stuff. We think of strategy, deck function, and deck fluidity, where deck fluidity is how fast and well the deck works without any quirks. It's working on tempo. Like how we want our decks to work, there are more things that delve in deep into deck building and functions, but there is game theory, the process of thinking of what each action means. There is a thought process you need to have when deck building, an algorithm, a problem to solve. We need to break deck building strategy into a functional equation, which is the equation on screen. The equation is tied to a proven method of assessing game actions and deck building. It seems complicated to a derp like me, and trust me, I read it and I still feel complicated and confused about it. But the more I read over it, it makes more sense. But overall, it is a powerful tool to make you ask 4 major questions. One, is the effect of the card more powerful, and where does it fit in the game action? Is the mana value worth the timing restrictions on the card? What is the threat and power level of the card if it resolves? What consequences does it evoke? Positive, beneficial, or warning signs? Right? The reason the equation exists is not to put yourself in check, but to access and to assess the value of the cards you are putting in your deck and asking, is it worth it? Or in the value, is it worth it? Or is it too much value to pass up? Like sometimes you see a card and like, oh, that's an auto include. Got to slap that in there. And when putting cards in your commander deck, you have to ask, is the card building up value? Because that's one thing a lot of people need to think about, is the card adding value to your deck, is adding value to your game plan, your strategy, your theories, your energies, synergies.
Or was it just thrown in there, right?
Right. Right. Or is it instant value? Does it just gain you value right now? Or is it one of those values that accrue over time? Also, is it a short-term game or a long-term game? These are crucial thoughts to have in deck building process, because as you are managing your deck building resources and getting card advantage, are you constantly building for your end game goal? That's the question you want to ask a lot. Now, your end goal is important. Your win conditions are your end game goals. The 3 questions you should always ask is, are you playing cards that advance your strategy? Does this protect your strategy or add value to your strategy? Or is this what you're doing, advancing you to your end goal strategy? Now, in the equation I offer, you cannot control the whole outcome of the consequences that your spells create. But what you can control is choosing the cards and their effects. Your cards can be directional, pushing for that strategy, directional, but what you cannot control is the actions and responses your opponents will have. Your opponents will work sometimes together to disrupt your plans. So thus, you have to implement ways to control the consequences of your action. All right, I'm going to stop reading that for a second here. And so you notice the biggest thing I said in there is consequences, right?
Yep.
In the end, the consequences of your actions. So that's why everything in the top part of the equation is like adding up to your consequences, because that's what you're trying to think about when you're deck building, is your consequences that your cards will have. Like sometimes when you play a board wipe, people expect you to have more board wipes, like me. They're like, Tortoise is the king of board wipes because he has board wipes, which are game resets. People put in the deck. You hope. That's right.
You hope.
That's right. Well, that's part of the consequence, is what people will think. Because like a consequence of running board wipes in my deck is I got people to run heroic intervention more often in cards like it. Or something.
Was that something people weren't doing before?
Yeah. Honestly.
Oh
yeah.
Good Lord.
With the consequences thing, you got to think also on the line of, is this going to make me like a threat every time? Is this going to make me want to be played with a lot, make it interesting every time? Sure. Or is this going to be a complete, utter failure every time?
Right. Well, and another thing that got the consequences is, does it push your strategy? Right.
Yep. That too. Yeah.
Like, that's the most important part. Does it push your strategy? Now, I see Mad Saxon's looking down. He's probably looking at his list of questions. Is there something you
I'm
want?
actually taking notes. I'm taking notes on. I have the questions already up on screen. But here's the thing: just listening to your explanation of it, the very first thing to jump out at me is that I do the exact opposite of you, which is fine. But I'm looking for consequence first. I put cards in there for a specific experience. So I'm looking at the consequence, like I want to do this big thing, and that's why I'm putting it in there. Not saying anything in here is wrong or that, it's just, it made me notice my difference of approaching this. And it's probably why I don't win as much, because I'm putting cards in based on just the consequence without looking at the other things.
Well, you could literally flip this around and say consequence equals, and you have this all around, and that's the way you're doing it.
But I'm not considering any of those other things. I'm just looking at the consequence. So this is good for me to have to look at it and say, okay, well, maybe I should put a little bit more thought into this.
Well, let me give you.
I do the same thing.
Yeah,
I do the same thing.
Let me give you a good example of a card that makes good consequence. Everybody loves Counterspell. Counterspell is a powerful card, but its consequences are weaker than a card like Refute.
Yep.
All right, Refute costs 1 more, so the mana value, the resource management, is not as strong as Counterspell, which is just 2 blue. And the resolution is stronger in the consequence because it loots you a card. It gives you card flow. So, do you if you were given a choice, like if I was given a choice between Counterspell and Refute, I'd probably run Refute my deck over Counterspell because it gives me that self benefit that I want.
Let me make a counterpoint. As somebody who is known as the counterspell person locally, I never want to pay more than 2 mana for a counterspell ever. I don't care what else it does. And my reasoning is I need to be moving my goal forward.
Right.
Okay. And unless I'm playing Simic or Sultai, which is giving me blue and green together, then I'm on a much more limited mana curve than somebody who is playing something that can help them ramp, right? Not a lot of ramp in blue. We got some mana rocks. You have High Tide that you can do. In theory, once a game, you could throw it on a stick and cast it every turn, I suppose, if you're running Ice-Crown Scepter. But I don't want to have to leave 3 mana open for a counterspell. I need to be able to keep moving my game plan forward while keeping as little resources open as possible.
Right. But
so while the extra spell is nice, right? Like, yeah, I'm counterspelling something and I'm gaining a card off of it. How much did holding up 3 mana instead of 2 mana set me behind a turn?
Right. And that seems like an intent kind of question. Like, what's your intent in the game? Right.
Yeah, my answer to that too is why choose? Why not play both?
Yeah,
then it becomes the rest of the build, because it's if I'm going to do a counter spell, I feel like I need to lean into that as a strategy for the rest of the game. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I understand your point about what's the advantage to the card, and you should look at each and weigh them accordingly.
Right. And I actually have a response to Tabal on that. When you say why not run both, because there are very, very good, especially now, 2 mana counter spells in Commander. Right. Arcane Denial is 2 mana. Mana Drain 2 mana.
Yeah.
And in Commander specifically, counterspelling is way worse than it is in 1v1 Magic. Because if the 5 of us are sitting at a table, right, and we're all playing Commander, it's a 5-pod game, and it's the math's only slightly better for 4 players. But if we're in a 5-player game and Rhino does something and I counterspell him, well, me and Rhino are down a card. It affected you guys none, right? 1-for-1ing in Commander is so bad that I talk to players about building decks and wanting to run counter spells, I say run your counter spells, but the most important thing about using your counter spells is you need to use your counter spells to either A, protect your game plan, or B, stop your opponent's game plan, right? Like, there's just not enough counter spells to counter everything.
Sure.
So I do have a rebuttal, a retort on what Rayman said, because he mentioned some fancy counter spells in his list of counter spells is budgetary restrictions. Some people are like, I couldn't buy a mana drain. That thing's too damn expensive, right? So
fair.
So when looking at the equation, what benefits me most is going to be the best option I got.
You perhaps need to add cost into your equation, right? Because if I'm looking at these things, I'm just looking at what's available. Cost is absolutely, and I don't mean mana cost. I mean
price.
Like, how much money value cost does this card? What's this? How hard is it to obtain?
Right.
Sometimes that's more important than any of it.
Well,
in the afford the card, it doesn't matter.
In the defense of the equation can't really put price cost into it if you're building the most like that. But based on what you have available to you, use the equation to make the best choices.
Fair.
Let me interject, if I may, really quick, just before we get too far off the point. I would then argue that that it is, according to Rayman, the value being bad of being 1-for-1 and each person being down a card. I would then lean into what Superfast was saying and say it's worth playing because you are now getting extra value out of that counter spell. Yes, you had to spend 1 word to do it, but now you got the extra value of, was it looting a card or was it doing a draw?
Looting
a card, yeah. So now you need to play the spell because it's going to give you an extra advantage over just a regular counter spell.
Right.
I've never actually played Refute. Is it actually a loot where you draw a card and discard a card?
Yep. It's 1 color, 2 blue, counter target spell, then draw a card and discard a card.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to be. I don't like discarding cards in blue decks very often because I don't normally have cards that I want to not have in my hand.
But I get what you're saying, but someone who runs a graveyard strategy with blue would probably run Refute just to get that card in the graveyard.
But absolutely, if you're playing Muldrotha, if you're playing I've seen some of these decks where they run I don't remember what it's called, maybe Mirrodin Besieged.
Right.
Has a couple modes when it comes into play. Pick a mode, and one of the modes is if you have 20 or more artifacts in your graveyard, you win the game.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're playing something like that, then absolutely the loot effect becomes far more valuable.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Then that's what the equation's here for. Because like I said, if I had the choice between counterspell and Refute, I would run Refute. Right. But when it comes to synergy and strategies, that's what the equation's for. Does it fit your strategy? Maybe you just run counter spells and one-time removal. Because counter spells are a form of removal. The only difference between a counter spell and a removal spell is countering stops it from hitting the battlefield. A removal has to wait for it to hit the battlefield.
Yeah, counterspell is proactive, where a removal spell is reactive. You have to be able to respond immediately with a counterspell, whereas a removal spell, you have some more time to use it, because it's already on the table, and you're probably not doing it at instant speed anyways.
Right. So let me continue on really quick. So you have to add cards to your deck to help control the manipulation and the consequences in and towards your favor. By protecting your game plan, you have to do this in such a way that politics are not needed. Well, so what I mean by politics are not needed is you try to control the fact that you don't need to use politics a lot. Game politics are a buffer, and to me, as an opinion, are kind of a weakness, but you can definitely use it to your strategy. But the reason why I say they're kind of weakness, because usually when someone's doing politics, they're like, my deck's not doing everything I want it to do, so I need to favor someone else to do what I need to do. And that's a weakness to you. And you hope to God that someone goes for the favor. So we'll get more into that, because I want to do a full episode on politics. Well, yesterday I was going to do it, but one of our people wasn't going to be able to make it, so I didn't do it. Because politics.
All right.
But because the goal is to try to win, you can use politics to maneuver the game actions in your favor, but you really need to find a way to sustain your win conditions. And that's more of an aggressive tactic, because every action generates a consequences. Think of it as actions equal consequences. You have to be in control of your actions and be ready to take control of the consequences that you create. So consequences. I say consequences, and I know there's people with that childlike mind, and they think consequences mean bad things. Consequences doesn't mean bad things. It means every action generates either a positive or negative response, and you try to control your actions and your consequences in your favor. So when deck building, it is important to run removal, protection, and graveyard recursion, and sometimes the opposite. Sometimes you need to be able to cheat in a creature. Sometimes you need to be able to remove stuff from someone's graveyard. You don't put those in your deck. You have to be ready for the consequences and have a reaction that is equal to the responses, which I can say, I know this is true, but I can't do this all the time based on the card selection I have. But it is a good thinking to have because you want to build with it. Also, in your deck building, you need to make up for your losses by implementing heavy card advantage in your decks, because in a pseudo random card game, and I say pseudo because your card draw is random, but it's only random as the 99 cards in your deck, so it's not completely random. The unknown consequences you face can be foretold, so you can use this to your advantage by understanding the types of removal that are in different colors of the Magic Pie, and in Magic the Gathering, what type of hand and land disruption is in your each color, like board wipes, counter spells, etc., etc. If you know what kind of removal stuff, you can plan ahead for it. Really, the knowledge is out there. Now, a true fact is that you cannot be ready for every different deck type out there that exists. Some decks are just better than other decks just because the deck. But you can prepare for 80% of the games that you play by planning for the consequences that occur most often. You have to plan when deck build with the idea that you are going to be the main threat at the table. No matter the power level of the bracket you're playing, not saying you will be the main threat at the table, but you got to plan to put your strategy into action and play to its strength as much as possible. So, in this equation that's on screen, I share with you, you can see everything is pushed into calculation, into synergies, times, self benefits, so on and so forth. Because in a commander, you want everything to do as much as possible to benefit you and push your game further. So you are deck building. So when you are deck building, you are looking for ways to constantly do one of three things, and not in any order. 1, draw cards to have the card advantage. 2, to replay cheap spells or recurse from your graveyard. And 3, mana ramp, fix, and build up resources. Yeah. So, in that, which leads us into synergy, because synergy is important in the game, themes, and deck building process. But let's get one thing clear, and this is probably the most important part about this segment. There are 2 types of synergy in Magic the Gathering Commander. You have deck synergy, cards in your deck that make your deck work, flow, and draw, and do things good. Then you have theme synergy, which when you do typal themes, tribal themes, or maybe you're doing energy themes or themes around a certain mechanic.
Certain mechanics, yeah.
Right? Those are theme synergies. There are 2 different themes, and you have to bounce them both in your deck. The difference between the 2 are obvious and sometimes blend together, like landfall themes blend together with your deck synergy. Based on the game mechanics of the theme you are building, see deck synergy as designing your deck to function in a game by constantly giving you card advantage and good resources for mana production. Sometimes life and recursion are included in these themes, but not in today's topic. Theme synergy is synergizing cards to fit a repeating card or game-based action, an effect that fits a secular plan based on what your commander does or helps with, and that fits the end goal. And the trick is to deck build around synergy game actions and consequences, following the thought process of the equation I offer, and that is the game theory and deck building basically in this topic today. Oh, man, that's a lot of stuff.
You said a mouthful, that's for sure.
Right? Yeah. Well, honestly, I wasn't planning on reading the whole script, but like the way it flowed, I had to push into it because each thing was important to what I wanted to say.
Absolutely, well written.
Thank you. It was a bipolar tangent, but still going on. So when you take the top part of this equation and it gets your consequences. you take your consequences and you want to ask or calculate, does it fit your synergy and self benefits? Self benefits is best. Self benefits is like card draw, removal from someone else's board, and something like that. Benefit things that benefit you in your gameplay. That's really big in the calculation. That's why I see synergy and benefits are its own part of the problem, because everything the consequence it becomes, you want to ask yourself, does that particular card you put in your deck fit your synergy, or your deck synergy, theme synergy, and your self benefits? All right,
I'm going to say something, and I told you this the other day when I read this for the first time, and I really hope you don't take offense to this. But if you are a new player who is just getting into playing Commander and you are building a deck, please, for the love of God, do not use this.
No. This is definitely not for a new player.
No.
I've been playing for 20 plus years, and trust me, I just came up with this in one day, and I'm like, that works. It makes sense, and it makes sense because I'm used to it, right? This is something this equation is something you're going to naturally occur into. You're going to actually build your skills into. This is just saying this is how this equation looks when you master it, right? This is something you're naturally kind of doing. Like you discussed this before with me, Rayman. This is something that you just naturally kind of get into when you start.
Yeah.
This is just that natural thing in a.
Yeah, I think a lot of us do this. It just might not have been worded out in this way.
Right.
Yeah, we talked about that the other day. This is kind of how I build a deck, but I'm not. There's some things here I'm not taking into account. I kind of go with Tibalt's way. Is I look at consequence first and go, how is this going to affect the game state, either for me or for my opponents, and then go from there.
Right. Well, like I said to Debal earlier, all you're really doing is you're just flipping the equation around up top, saying consequence equals all this, because your brain, like the card effect, game action, resource management, time restrictions, and stuff, you already know that when you look at a card, right? You read the mana cost, you read what it does, your brain just naturally skips that whole process. But it's there. It's like it's there. You know what's happened. So finding the consequences is so much easier for you to see, because the consequence just goes into synergy and benefits. Because all I did is I took the things that make a consequence, and I'm like, the consequence is what you're going for, and synergy and self benefits is the one thing you ask if the card really works.
Yeah, and then if you built enough decks and been playing long enough, a lot of these kind of blend into each other, and you kind of just do it without thinking.
I would also like to point out that I've built a lot of decks over the years, and I've built a lot of Commander decks recently. So I've only been playing Commander specifically for 3 years. Sometimes you may think a card just fits perfectly. Like you're looking at it and you're going, man, this fits everything I want my deck to do. It's perfect. And then you sit down and play 3 or 4 games, and every time you draw it, you're like, I hate this effing card. Please, I don't want to draw it again.
Right.
Sometimes just because it looks and it should be perfect. Magic is an imperfect game played by imperfect people.
That's right.
And sometimes a card is just not like, wow, this really should have worked better. This
wasn't playable.
All these great triggers. It's costed perfectly. Everything fits. You're just like, well, out it goes. Time to find something else to put in its place.
Right. I was that new player that thought 6 mana was a good mana resource amount, like mana for everything. Like I look at a spell and I'd care less if the mana cost was like 8. I'm like, I want to play this in a deck. But as you get older in Magic and your skills, you're like, well, maybe that 8 mana cost is not as powerful as the ability I want to play. Or maybe
what's the average mana cost of your 3 dinosaur decks?
So
I bet it's twice the average of anything I have.
Right. But
if you're cheating stuff in,
yeah, I was about to say, if you're cheating stuff in, if you my 5 color dinosaur deck, the average mana cost is 5. Like nice. Technically, through the deck synergy, theme synergy,
right?
Yeah.
So like I could have something that costs 9 mana and it costs 5.
Yeah,
right. In the other deck, I work with my resource management, which is in the equation, and that one fixes the mana cost, so I can play those huge things. Yes, about 3 times for decks. I feel personally picked on by that comment. But yes.
Well, another thing that I've noticed just looking at this and through this discussion, one of the initial because I read this through and I read it through a number of times once you sent it to me, and I thought it was great. Like I said, I had a few gut reaction questions and stuff. But one of the things that I'm noticing the more that we talk and the more that we look at this, I'm seeing, and my decks in my mind anyhow, are dividing into shells versus cards. Because I'm starting to look at this and think like, okay, how do I build a shell that gets me around timing restrictions and such? Yep. And then what cards do I play that are going to synergize to that? So I think for a newer player that maybe looks at this and thinks that this looks overwhelming and crazy, I think you just kind of break it down into some simple questions that you ask for every card that goes into the deck.
Right.
In my case, it's like, what synergy am I playing? And then how am I going to get around it? And does this card serve my end goal, whatever that is?
Right.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. And like there's a lot of questions. Like I said, this is me looking at 20 years of Magic and simplifying things. For some people, it's not simplified. It's like they're looking
not simplified for me.
They're looking in the future of things, and they're like, that's just a lot of things to calculate, right?
It's good for me. I'm close to 20 years playing, so it's
right.
I'm getting up on close to 30. It'll be 30 in 2027.
30 years?
Yeah.
I started playing in 1997. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't start playing till 20 core set 15.
No.
Yeah, I was 13 years. I was technically 12 years old because I hadn't turned 13 yet when I started playing Magic.
So I have to open it up. Is there any questions that people have?
I'll start then, since I've got them all written out in front of me. So I'm going to skip the one about, here's the very first question that I had as soon as I saw this. Are you, or would a person's deck become stale, or their deck building become stale if they use this for every deck that they use? Or do you feel that the pool of cards is so wide that you'd wind up with different decks each time?
So, to answer your question, and I was prepared for this question.
I know you were.
All right. So, deck staleness? No. Like one of the things that this equation talks about is deck synergy and theme synergy. Theme synergy will always spice things up. You can take the idea of the deck synergy, what works for your deck, put in your deck, but the themes will always change. Like the difference between infect and energy, right? Infect decks, they kind of can get stale because they do the same thing. But energy is a whole different process. You got to work for energy and use energy for different costs. So in that aspect, based on what you like, the only way this thing will become stale is if you play the same kind of decks over and over again.
And I guess that's what I'm worried about, or thinking in a more general sense, is if you are just playing the optimal card for X, Y, or Z, you're going to wind up, for example, and this may not be everybody or whatever, but you're going to wind up playing Ristic Study in every deck. You're going to wind up playing Sword of Plowshares in every deck. It feels like you might wind up with a pool of cards that are just very narrow.
Well, I got two responses for you: Commander tables and game changers.
Yeah, okay. I was about to say that the game changers definitely affect that, right? I have a bunch of blue decks, and I run Ristic Study, and I think one of them now, because I would just rather run other stuff in the deck. Like Ristic Study is a great card, but I'd much rather run it in the deck.
Right.
But to Balt's point about staleness, if this is where we got to go back a few minutes, Tort, because we were talking about like what I was saying, I'd run Mana Drain over Refuge. If you're just looking at cards you have, then I'm worried that Tabalt's right. that you are going to end up with just a very specific kind of few cards. But if you're opening the entire pool up, then that's very different.
Well, in my defense, I did say that you can't add mana, you can't add cash value to the equation, because the equation is there for the deck building process. You're working with what you have, but you can't add mana value to the process, because the process don't care about cash value.
Yeah, you would add cash value to the upgraded process.
Right. And this is just,
if you're building a deck, then I think when you're looking at what you want to put in your deck, budget has to be in the back of your mind.
Well, it usually starts out that way.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. It has to be there somewhere, because what I would build, if you gave me a commander and said, hey, I want you to build me 3 versions of this deck. I want you to build me a version that you only have access to the cards you currently own right now. You get nothing. No boosters, no nothing. What you have right now is what you get.
right.
Then you say, all right, you can go and you can spend $50 plus what you have on this deck. And then you go, hey, whatever money you're willing to spend on this deck plus what you have, these deck lists are going to look very, very different.
Yeah.
Right. But let me throw one wrench in your thought process. Not type 2. Core 2 decks can run a bracket 4 levels.
100% they can.
Right. So
that's why I didn't mention I'm trying to build a deck for X bracket, because I don't build decks that way.
Right.
I make sure that I don't put too many game changers in a deck to make it bracket 3, but I build the deck and then play it and see where it ends up. And I go, oh, if either this is way too strong, I've got to bring this down. I got to take 5-6 cards out. It's just running too optimally. Or
Right.
I'm like, oh, it's not running anywhere near as well as I thought. I can make a few changes and bring it up a bit.
Right. Well, another thing to think about is trading. You got cards to trade. You have friends that are willing to give you cards. Usually when you're deck building in a pod, a group, a meta, So there's times people will help you with that,
But and then I would also say, usually when we all sit down and have an idea for a deck, we always start with what we have.
Right.
And then we go with our budget.
Right.
Then we go with what we're willing to add to the budget. You know what I mean?
I guess I kind of do that. I kind of, when I start to build a deck, I literally just built Omnath last week. I built Omnath Locus of Creation.
Locus of Creation, yeah.
And I sat down and I'm like, okay, not counting my mana base, these are about the 130, 140 cards I want to look at. Now I got to get this down to 60. These are what I want. What of this do I have? But my first draft of a deck is, what do I want in this deck?
Oh,
and then I'm going to go, what do I have? Am I willing to spend to get the stuff that I don't have? The answer is usually no, but sometimes, sometimes it's really important.
Don't forget, your draft is never complete until you play test it multiple times. Right.
I believe a Magic deck's a work of art, and it's never complete. I don't have a single deck that I say this deck is done. I will never make a change to this thing.
Right.
All my decks are art that's never finished.
Right. I get that. But like when you have a draft put together, and you put together a deck, and like, this is a cool deck, you play test it. Maybe one card doesn't work well for you, or maybe one card is not as powerful as you want to, so you want to switch them out and stuff like that. So yeah, that's one of the things.
I pray it's 1. It's usually 10.
It's usually 10. It usually is. It usually is.
So we got enough time for one more question. Any other question you want to ask?
So I guess the other question then becomes how you're building your deck, whether you are theory crafting the deck or are you building based on what you have. A lot of times there's a difference between cards that inspire you to build a deck, or are you theory crafting and just saying, here's the deck that I want to build, and then going to find the cards?
But you can do both.
Sure, you can do both. What are you doing, and how would you apply the formula?
So technically, in the small version of what I do is I go through all my cards and see what I have. Then I try to get a budget from my wife and be like, how much money can I spend on Magic cards? And in that budget, I try to build a deck.
So you build the bones or the framework basically based on what you have, and then use it to fill out other cards.
Yeah, that's usually what I try to do.
Okay.
Usually what I try to do. But like everybody has different resources, right?
For sure.
Like Rayman builds decks differently, you know. Rhino Blitz builds deck differently. Hillbilly is building his first deck right now, you know. So there are different things to take in consideration and what you have, because resource management, not in the equation, but resource management with your wallet, you know, is another way to look at building cards. Is how much can you afford, how much can you get. Sometimes it takes you a couple months to get a couple cards you want because they're pricier. Because like people like me and Hillbilly, we're poor people. We're poor people. Like
I'm poor too.
my display makes me look rich, but I'm not rich. You know, my display makes me look like I have money, but I don't have money.
I know this is not representation of what.
Right? Like explain to people, this whole shelf is pretty much discounted from the thrift store. Except with a few pieces, with the exception of a few pieces, you know, like the shelf is from Goodwill, which in a different video I don't shop anymore. Yeah, but anyways, Team Cosmic Seed member for 60 months. Thank you. Woo woo woo.
Cool.
Woo! Happy New Year, everyone! Happy New Year! Whoa whoa! I appreciate.
I could use me some seeds.
That's right. I had some seeds the other day, but my friends. Whew, I can't wait to pick this up next week, but we got to get to a specific time of the day.
Hit that subscribe button. Become a part of the creep.
Too much to take. Show is lit. MTG3, are you game? Rise, creep, rise. Building the following as we gain. Spitting fire like a dragon. No one can bring us down. MTG3 in the house. We own this town. Ripping through the beats with a fury.
Ooh, everybody, it's time to get to that chill section, that thrill section. And man,
Party people.
That's right, party people. That's right. 3 hands up in the air, wave them around like you just don't care. Flipping pancakes. All right. So we got to get to the end scene here. All this fun jazz. It's time to start chilling. We're going to start chilling with the Rhino Blitz.
What's up, everybody? I hope everyone had a safe and entertaining New Year's. Today's topic was great. Deck building, one of my favorite parts of Magic. I'm Rhino Blitz. You can catch my first stream of my channel, which is streaming through YouTube and Twitch at the Real Rhino Blitz. Yeah, we'll be doing a Lorwyn Eclipse booster box unpacking, and might build a deck or might do some extra behind the scenes things with some people that will be there. Just some fun, good old Magic, and then regular episodes every week.
Cool.
Good. Sounds awesome. With that, we're going to roll over to the Rayman.
Hey, thanks guys for having me again. Great topic, Tort. I love seeing how other people build decks. I've been doing it for so long at this point. I just don't even think about it anymore. It's just like second nature. I just do it. But you can find me here at Mr. B's Game Lounge. We're going to have F&M tonight, and then of course we will be having more of our YouTube channel going up. Got some great games lined up. Some more deck techs. I've got a bunch of people wanting to do deck techs. So many fun decks here. We'll be doing some Lorwyn Eclipse openings when that drops. So check us out, and thanks for everybody for watching.
All right, sounds awesome. With that, we're going to evolve into the darkest hour of our lives and listen to what Tabal has to say.
Never mind what's going on in the lab behind me. I just want to point out real quick that Coach's Magic brought up a great question there about what about if your goal is having fun at the table and maybe winning 1 out of 4 games. I don't think anybody wants to win 1 out of 4 games. I think everybody wants to win all the games. Often, but that's a topic like this. This topic could go on forever. I think it's a great way to start the new year.
Yeah. I want to apologize for asking that.
Yes, I'm supposed to be shilling. So my shill is go to darkritual.site to find everything Tybalt's Apprentice. You can find my blog there. You can find my story. You can find me on Instagram and a number of different places. But I'm hoping everybody has a great and successful new year.
Mm-hmm. All right, sounds good. With that, we're gonna rotate over to Hillbilly.
Hey, everybody. There's going to be a stream sometime this afternoon. I don't know if it'll be around 2 o'clock or not. There will be a stream, so make sure you are subscribed to my channel and hit that bell notification. You'll know when I go live.
Ooh, sounds good. Sounds good. With that, it is Super Fast Tortoise's turn saying, hey, hit that likes button, hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. If you feel like today's topic, I want to get a taste of more of this stuff coming up because we got more topics coming out next week. We do the show every day at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. We're going to have a blast. With that, I want to thank everybody for being on the show today. I want to thank you, Rayman, Hillbilly, Michael, and Rhino. Thank you for being here. Everybody in chat, you rock, you roll. Thank you for being here, listening in, and tuning in. Everybody showed up, you rock. I want to remind you that you're loved. Someone's thinking about you. And if you can't say and or do something positive for someone else today, because you might be the change you need. And also want to thank my channel members and subscribers for building up and supporting the channel that you guys do. You guys help out amazingly. And with that, we got to get to that end credit stuff.
I want to thank you, channel members of the channel, for supporting this creep the way you do. You are awesome. And you subscribers, everybody that subscribes, you're doing amazing too. Thank you very much for all that you do.
Start the morning with coffee in your cup. Time to hang out with friends and chat it up. Bring a smile and good luck. Hit that like button and let's chat it up. Good times start with us, you and me. Good morning.